First into the arena, the team from Puerto Rico. The Puerto Ricans will be starting on balance beam. Katina Alicea, a 16-year-old. 23-year-old Carolise Diaz. Alejandra Alvarez, another 16-year-old. Ainoa Herrero, 18. Joined by Stella Diaz, a 21-year-old from San Juan. Thunderous applause greets the team from Brazil. Shockingly, they have never won gold and they have never won silver at this event. Could that change tonight? Caroline Pedro, the 23-year-old. Jaj Barbosa, who competed here in 2007. Julia Suarez, the 18-year-old. Flavia Saraiva, the 23-year-old from Rio de Janeiro. And Rebecca Andrade, one of the stars of global gymnastics, the current silver medalist in the all-around competition at the World Championships and the world champion in 2022. Such a roar could only be reserved for the host nation. The Chilean team, members of whom are among the most experienced gymnasts in the world. Macarena Pinto, the 35-year-old from Providencia, a suburb of Santiago. Sofia Casella, the national champion. She is 19. Antonia Marijuan, an 18-year-old from Vitacura. Francesca Santi from Valparaiso, the floor exercise champion and the uneven bars bronze medalist at the Bolivarian Games in 2022. They are joined by 40-year-old Barbara Achondo of Valparaiso, a gymnast who retired initially after she did not qualify for the Olympic Games in 2000. She is back. We will have much more on her to come. The team from Canada. Sydney Turner, the 18-year-old from British Columbia. Newcomer Frédéric Scarbosa, an 18-year-old as well. Orly Tran, the reigning Canadian national champion. Ava Stewart. 17-year-old Cassie Lee. Canada is the silver medalist from 4 years ago in Lima. And Canada will begin on vault. So Chile on the uneven bars, Puerto Rico on balance beam, and Brazil on floor exercise. What a wonderful night of gymnastics we are in for. There is a look at the Brazilian team and Jaj Barbosa. Barbosa, the 32-year-old born in Rio de Janeiro. She quite literally vaulted to success at the Pan American Games in 2007, held in her hometown. And it is the competition that made her a superstar, because this is a competition that creates superstars. Brazil has been an extraordinary team in recent years, and all their work culminated with the world silver medal. Here is the lineup for Brazil on floor. Caroline Pedro will lead them off. Judge Barbosa goes in the number 2 slot. Julia Suarez and Flavia Saraiva will anchor the team. Flavia Saraiva coming off of a bronze medal on floor at the World Championships after a career performance. Canada on vault, meanwhile, Sydney Turner will lead them off, followed by Frédérique Scarbosa, Aurélie Tran, and Ava Stewart. The 2020 Olympian will vault last. Judge Barbosa has completed her warm-up. And still on the floor, Julia Suarez. We will not see Rebecca Andrade on floor exercise, but she is listed to compete on the other 3 apparatus this evening, including vault, where she won the world title about 3 weeks ago in Belgium. Canada is completing its warm-up on vault. Gudyarchenko 1.5 twist.
Gymnastics, that completes the warm-up. Judges, please call your first competitor.
The first competitor on floor exercise for Brazil is 23-year-old Caroline Pedro. Here she is. On the back of 4 strong tumbling passes from Caroline Pedro, Brazil's Pan American Games has begun. She is such a veteran performer, Caroline Pedro. She has been a key part of so many Brazilian victories, including the silver medal at the World Championships, even though she was the replacement athlete on that team. She was present at every training session, and her job, which she did well, was to push the gymnasts and encourage them, sometimes by her own actions in the training gym. Good tumbling. Full twisting double tuck to open, and then an Arabian double front second pass. Here is her double pike. Meanwhile, over on the vault, here is Sydney Turner of Canada. And she begins with a very nice Yurchenko with a full twist. She does have a step back on the landing, which will cost her a few tenths. 12.3 the score for Caroline Pedro. And now to Judge Barbosa. The Brazilian national champion returning to the Pan American Games. 32-year-old Judge Barbosa. She won the Brazilian title this summer for the first time since the first time she won it back in 2007. And that year, 2007, was when she went to the Pan American Games for the first time. She won the vault title, and it made her a superstar. World medals and Olympic competitions followed, but it began at this event for this gymnast. And what a road she has traveled. Barbosa has largely been absent from international competitions since 2019, and it has been splendid to have her back and in such obvious great form. Lovely double pike closing out this routine. It's a hit, to say the least. Frédéric Scarbosa of Canada approaching the vault. Once again, a very clean Yurchenko full. Just a tiny hop on the landing, but it looked very good in the air. 13.033 is the score that she received. From a different angle, you see her approach the round off onto the springboard. She's slightly offline, but it's not a big problem. And now, from Brazil, Julia Soares on floor. Julia Suarez of Brazil with the routine that first drew her international acclaim. She won the floor exercise title at the Baku World Cup in Azerbaijan last year. And it was the first time that anybody really outside the Pan American world had seen her compete. And she just dazzled. She's coming off a very promising junior career as well. It included competing at the World Championships for juniors, the first held back in 2019. She's such a tidy tumbler, both in the air and on her landings. Excellent full twisting double tuck. And a wonderful position in her Cossack turn. It's really quite dancer-like. It's an aerial view of the full twisting double tuck again. And very nice lift on her double pike to end. 13.4, the score for Julia Suarez. And now Flavia Sarajeva, the world bronze medalist on floor this year. This is the routine that did it. What a splendid presentation that was from Flavia Sarajeva, who has given us so many phenomenal floor exercises routines over the years. A Flavia Sarajeva floor exercise is always something special, as much for the tumbling as it is for the dance. She has downgraded her tumbling passes slightly since the World Championships, and she actually opens up with a double layout, her second pass, as it was in Antwerp. One small step out of bounds, that will cost her 1/10 of a point, be reflected as a penalty. And there's her double layout. And the jumps are just extraordinary as well. This is quite unique, the switch ring with a half twist. She hits the ring position and then she turns her body. And the double pike. Just enchanting through and through. The score for Flavia Sarajeva on floor exercise, 13.4. And now the Canadian national champion, Aurélie Tran, on vault. Oh, superb! Yurchenko with a full twist. Beautiful execution. And that clean, crisp style, that marks all of her gymnastics. A good approach, but she is so straight coming off the table. This is a good angle to see it. Look at the line in the trajectory. 13.2 the score for Aurélie Tran, and a 9.0 in execution. And now to Ava Stewart of Canada. And a 1.5 twisting Yurchenko, the most difficult vault we've seen yet from a Canadian. Very well done too. Good approach, a very tidy twist, and just the small step forward on landing. Ava Stewart receives 13.3 for her Yurchenko 1.5. And that will do it for rotation number 1 in this third and final subdivision of the team competition. Now these results are cumulative, and so the 4 that are competing in the arena now, Brazil, Canada, Chile, and Puerto Rico, will be rather far down in the rankings until the final rotation. But this gives you a picture of how the medals are shaping up. Brazil now heads to vault, where we will see the same 4 that competed on floor exercise. Leading off once again will be Caroline Pedro. Canada is now warming up on the uneven bars. The host nation is over on the balance beam, while Puerto Rico has moved to floor exercise. At the moment, the United States leading the way in the team competition. They competed in the second of 3 subdivisions, and they were spectacular on all 4 apparatus. The total that they have posted, that these 4 teams are trying to better, is 165.196. Mexico currently sits in second place. They posted just over 150 points. Colombia is third, having reached 144.4. Here's a look at Canada's uneven bars lineup. Sydney Turner, Frédéric Scarbosa, Ava Stewart, and Aurélie Tran. And it should be noted that although 4 gymnasts compete on each apparatus in a team competition, only the best 3 scores count towards the team total. And so that leads to all kinds of competition dynamics. But it means generally for teams that they are allowed a bit of room for an error. If somebody makes a mistake, they can potentially count on their teammates to hit and their own score to be dropped. The other side of that coin, of course, is that when somebody makes a mistake, it puts pressure on everybody else to do as well as they possibly can. A look at the warm-up of Aurélie Tran. Sydney Turner making her final preparations. The highest score posted today on the uneven bars, 14.766. That came from Zoe Miller of the USA. And here is Sydney Turner of Canada, the first to perform. for her nation on the uneven bars. Lovely Maloney to high, and the pack salto down to the low bar. Interrupted her rhythm ever so slightly, but is not a big problem. That, however, is a bigger one. She wanted to do a toe stalder with a full turn, but she got off balance and actually ended up executing a harder skill, the toe stalder with 1.5 turns. However, that meant that she was swinging the wrong way, and she tried to kip off and cover it, but it just didn't go quite right. Double layout dismount for Sydney Turner, the 18-year-old from New Westminster, British Columbia. She is already a part of Canadian gymnastics history, a member of the team that won bronze, their first medal at the World Championships last year. On this event, she has had success on the World Challenge Cup circuit as well, including a silver medal from 2022 in Szombathely in Hungary. Over to vault and Judge Barbosa of Brazil. This should be a double twisting Yurchenko. It is a particularly steady vault for her. It's one that she has performed now for 16 years at the world level. She is a world medalist on vault. And she has been so reliable for the Brazilians on this apparatus. She begins her twist perhaps just a tad early. You see the angle of entry onto the table. But she has plenty of push and gets good rotation in the afterflight. 13.8 the score for Judge Barbosa on vault. Sydney Turner, meanwhile, has 11 on the uneven bars. And now the dynamic that we talked about at the beginning of the rotation comes into play for Canada. When your first up has a fall, the other three now need to hit. '18-year-old Frédéric Scarbosa. Maloney transition to clear hip circle. The lovely toe on Kachev array. The same element she used at the top of her routine with a half turn, named for Dutch gymnast Laura van Leeuwen. Double layout. Very nice routine for Frédéric Scarbosa in her first Pan American Games. She was the reserve athlete at the World Championships earlier this month. A gymnast who grew up in Quebec. She changed clubs recently. She is now training at Quebec's storied Club Gymnastics in Montreal. And she says that it's changed her approach to gymnastics and competition somewhat. She does a lot more mental preparation before competitions. And so far, looks like it's paying off. There are very small form things in some of her elements, notably slight leg separations on her transitions, both to the high and low bars. But you can't argue with a landing like that, can you? And now, vaulting for Brazil, Flavia Saraiva. Wonderful double twisting Yurchenko. She has been doing that vault for many years now, but I'm not sure if I've ever seen her do it better than she has this year, both at the World Championships and right now. The approach is good. And compared to her height, her actual height, the height that she gets from the table is just extraordinary. 14.0 for Flavia Saraiva, the 23-year-old from Rio de Janeiro, now competing in her third Pan American Games. Awaiting her score on the uneven bars is Frédéric Scarbosa. .1, the number that she receives, and that is quite an improvement from the first routine that we saw from Sydney Turner. Ava Stewart of Canada prepares to mount the uneven bars. This has the potential to be an excellent routine. Stalled her full in combination with her transition to high, and she combines that with an uprise Kachev. And we'll see if she throws it. This is her own skill, a double front in the pike position, but oh, that's too bad. It is so very difficult, that dismount. It's actually named for her in the Women's Code of Points in gymnastics. Let's have another look back at the highlights of this exercise, of which there are quite a few. She really flies well between the bars. She has a kind of naturally fluid swing. This is her second transition to high, the Van Leven. And here is the dismount. Good pike position, but she actually holds on to it a little too long and isn't able to get the landing she needs. It is a pretty blind landing. It's hard to spot, unlike the dismounts that go backwards, where the gymnast is flipping through the air backwards. And now the world champion on this apparatus, Rebecca Andrade, with her vault. And that's actually her second vault, a double twisting Yurchenko. This is the vault that sealed the world title for her about 3 weeks ago in Antwerp. It's complicated, but she makes it look so easy. It's almost a relaxed approach. And look at her straight body position in the air and the way that she actually has time to throw her arms out to the side before she goes for the landing. Vault 1 was spectacular as well. 15.1 and a 14.816 average. That is, by quite some ways, the highest score that we have seen on vault so far at the Pan American Games. Ava Stewart, meanwhile, earns a 12.4 on uneven bars. It is still the highest mark that we have seen from a Canadian on this apparatus. And here is someone who could go even higher, Aurélie Tran, the national champion. Nice Maloney to pack salto to start. Good Van Leeuwen. She hits her handstands very well. Things finish in the 12 o'clock position. It's exactly what you want to see on uneven bars. Winding up for a double layout dismount. That is a very nice exercise, and that will help Canada's effort greatly. At the Pan American Championships earlier this year, Aurélie Tran won 3 bronze medals, including 1 with the team, as well as in the all-around and on balance beam. She is coming off of her World Championship debut in Antwerp. At the Pan American Games a few years ago, she was actually the Canadian flag bearer. Her teammates describe her as quite quiet and unassuming, but fiercely motivated. And that's a routine that will transmit quite a lot of motivation to her teammates, perhaps. .4, the score for Aurélie Tran on uneven bars. And with that, just like that, we are halfway through this 3rd subdivision in this women's team final. Time does fly when one is having fun. A look at the standings at present of the teams competing now in the arena. Brazil is leading the way by quite a large margin over Canada. And Puerto Rico has moved into 3rd place ahead of Chile. Chile, meanwhile, moves to floor exercise. Brazil will go to the uneven bars. Canada will be on balance beam, and Puerto Rico will head to vault. We have a new leader in the individual qualification on vault, and that, unsurprisingly, is the world champion, Rebeca Andrade. 14.816, the number that she posted there. Meanwhile, Canada's Aurélie Tran received 13.4 on uneven bars, and that puts her 5th, but actually 3rd in the qualification. Canada on balance beam will be led off by Cassie Lee. Brazil once again will send up Caroline Pedro as their first contender on uneven bars.
This rotation on vault.
Pedro just completing her warm-up. Judge Barbosa will go in the number 2 slot. Canada, meanwhile, is on the balance beam. What a fantastic back full twist we will see from Ava Stewart. Here is Orly Tran as well. Canada is well known for its technically crisp work on balance beam. Preparing now Cassie Lee, who will be first up. Depending on who you ask, going up first on balance beam for your team is either something that makes you very, very nervous or something that you're glad to get out of the way. Cassie Lee, just 17 years old, but very experienced. Lovely round off layout, step out mount. An ambitious flight sequence, side aerial right into back layout. It's difficult because you start from a standing position and you do 2 elements where your hands don't touch the beam. Unfortunately for the fall, she will incur a full point deduction. That is the price of the unintentional dismount. Beautiful triple turn in Cossack position. The skill named for Lauren Mitchell of Australia. Cassie Lee of Canada finishing her beam routine. She was second in the all-around at the Elite Canada competition this year. She also has a team bronze medal from the Commonwealth Games last year. She was 5th on floor exercise there. Let's have another look at her mount sequence. One of the riskiest things you can do on balance beam from the springboard, the back layout, step out. She dismounts with a round off through to 1.5 twist. Finds the ground very well. Stuck landing. 12.033, the mark that Canada will have to build on balance beam. Sydney Turner about to mount the beam. The same mount that we just saw from Cassie Lee. She gets right down to business. Back handspring layout. Good save. There will be a small deduction for the balance check, but it is much better than coming off. Leaps in combination with the Corbett, the back handspring swing down. And she did have to rather grab the beam and steady herself at the end of that maneuver. That too will be a deduction. Gainer back handspring to 1.5 twists. Sydney Turner of British Columbia gets through it on balance beam. It's a routine that's quite front-loaded with 3 very difficult sequences at the beginning, and after she got through those, could almost see her visibly relax. This is such a good angle to see a mount sequence like that from, because it makes you realize just how precise the gymnast has to be and how little room for error there is. There's a slight modification on the Corbett. Unusual dismount, the gainer back handspring, and the back handspring step out into the 1.5 twist. Now to the uneven bars and Caroline Pedro of Brazil. This will set the tone for the Brazilians on uneven bars. Shaposhnikova to pack salto. Maloney to high, and a bail to low. Toe shoot back to the high bar. The blind change, and to her Jaeger. Unfortunately, she does not catch that cleanly. She's fully extended, and the bar unfortunately just isn't there for her. Dismount double pike. Caroline Pedro of Brazil on the uneven bars. And with the fall, this is a routine whose score Brazil will hope to be dropping. 10.4 her number. Difficulty down quite a bit. And now to Ava Stewart of Canada on the balance beam. Here comes the skill we saw in warm-up. Back handspring, tucked full twist, and just wonderful. That tucked full is one of the hardest things that a human can do on a balance beam. And and she does hers from a back handspring. There's some excellent work in this routine. Unique combinations of jumps and acrobatic elements. Good switch ring leap. That's so hard because the gymnast's head has to go all the way back. She loses sight of the beam. And 2 back handsprings to a double pike dismount. Her teammates are jumping up and down. What a lovely composed performance from Ava Stewart. 12.633, meanwhile, the score for Sydney Turner. So Canada is building. Here's her mount, the candle, back dive to chest stand. She's quite meticulous with her double turn in Cossack position. Small balance check after her switch ring, but she really wasn't far off at all. And from there, straight into the dismount. The 2 back handsprings, a good push off of the beam. Just enough to get the double pike around. Ava Stewart turned 18 last month. She was born in Tennessee in the United States, but has a Canadian father, and she grew up in Ontario from the age of 4 onwards. One of the youngest gymnasts at the Tokyo Olympics, one of only 3 born in 2005 to compete there. There is 1 gymnast left to perform for Canada on the balance beam. Over on the uneven bars, Flavia Saraiva of Brazil. Good toe stalder full to immediate pike Kachev to pack salto to low. Gymnasts used to combine 2 elements on the uneven bars quite a lot, and these days we are seeing combinations of 3, 4, even 5 elements, including release skills. Double front dismount. Very nice routine for Flavia Saraiva. It is going quite well for this gymnast so far in her 3rd Pan American Games. She owns 5 medals at this event, all of them bronze. The score for Flavia Saraiva, 13.633. Back to the balance beam and Aurélie Tran. Lovely scale as part of her choreography, holding her leg. Very stylish work on balance beam. And it also serves to really ease her into this exercise. Graceful side aerial. Here's her flight sequence, back handspring layout, right on. The split jump with half turn done crosswise. That adds difficulty. She's been very well focused throughout this routine. Simple round off, full twisting dismount. Most of the difficulty came in the interior of that set, and so she opts to do a simpler dismount, and why not? If that's what works for her, and this routine works well, and it will work well for the Canadians too. Her mount is a switch leap. And then she takes quite some time before launching into this back handspring layout, step out combination. Dismount simple and elegant, flared out at the end and very nearly stuck. What a nice routine that was from the Canadian champion. Aurélie Tran, another gymnast who trains at Gymnastics in Quebec. She says that recently the thing that she's been working on is self-confidence. Whatever she's doing, it's working for her. The score for Aurélie Tran on balance beam, 12.866. A routine not to be missed on the uneven bars. Rebeca Andrade of Brazil. All of these skills connected, the Maloney to the Stalderful, right to the pike Kachev, and then finally, to top it off, the pack salto to the low bar. Handstand position is excellent too, right up on top of the bar. Great flight on the piked Jaeger. Such an enjoyable routine. And she combines a toe stalder into her full twisting double tuck dismount. Excellent, excellent work from Rebeca Andrade. She swings this apparatus so well. An up-close look at the pike Jaeger. The handstands are very good, and the dismount done in combination with the toe stalder full. Oh, so much flight, and this very measured, careful landing. 14.3 and 6.1 difficulty. That will be the second best number posted on the uneven bars. Here's a look at where things stand heading into the final rotation of the women's team competition at these Pan American Games. The United States sits atop the leaderboard, but chasing them as they complete their competition, Brazil, Canada, Puerto Rico, and Chile. A look at the Canadian start order on floor exercise. Brazil will move to the balance beam. Meanwhile, Chile goes to vault, where they have the services of Macarena Pinto in the anchor position. It is her very best event. She has won World Cup and World Challenge Cup medals on it. And so warm-ups are complete. And the fourth rotation is upon us. Ava Stewart on floor for Canada. Ava Stewart is the rare gymnast whose international career really began with the Olympic Games. But since then, she has evolved and continued developing her gymnastics. And it's wonderful to see what it has become. Unusual pike front somersault, walks out of it into a round off back handspring double twist. And a 1.5 twisting walkout through to double pike. That's what she opened up with. The Canadians are all very good tumblers, but everyone always looks forward to seeing their choreography on floor. It's really something special. .466 for Ava Stewart, leading off her team on floor. And now Sydney Turner of Canada. The floor exercise of Sydney Turner of Canada as her team tries to climb back up onto the podium at the Pan American Games.
Oh my God, you did so good.
Canada has won a medal in women's artistic team gymnastics at every Pan American Games since 1999. And that was the year that they took gold in Winnipeg. What a team that was. Sydney Turner actually does a press to handstand in the middle of her floor routine. It's an element that a lot of gymnasts train as part of their conditioning. And she makes it part of her choreography. On vault, the host nation and Antonia Marwan. Oh, that's a very difficult landing for her. And it's good to see that she is all right after that Yurchenko with a full twist that did not go at all the way that it should have. Her arms are bent, very bent, and she actually misses her hands on the table. And the score, it does not matter. What matters is that she is all right. And now for Canada, Aurélie Tran on floor exercise, closing out her competition. Repetigny, Quebec's Aurélie Tran. The Canadian champion this year, who just made her World Championship debut in Antwerp. Now she makes her Pan American Games debut and closes out her qualification with that lovely floor exercise. She's made a remarkable comeback to tumbling after tearing her Achilles tendon in 2022. The tumbling is clean, but where she pulls you in is with her expressivity, the way that she uses her whole body in her choreography, her head and her legs and her arms and her feet. Things flow from one to another. This was one of the standout skills. The Memel turn, named for Chelsea Memel, the 2003 all-around champion here at the Pan American Games. 12.666 the score for Aurélie Tran. And now Cassie Lee of Canada on floor. 17-year-old Cassie Lee of Canada. She has committed to compete for the University of Iowa in the coming years, along with her teammate, Aurélie Tran. And she has done 2 world championships, most recently in Belgium a few weeks ago. 1.5 twist to front layout with full twist, very steady. And this too, a routine that just wraps you up in its choreography. She incorporates the dance and the turns very well indeed. Just 1 foot out of bounds, slightly lacking in control on the landing of that double pike. She'll take a deduction for the hop back, as well as a 1/10 of a point penalty for the out of bounds. And so Cassie Lee delivers 12.333 on floor exercise. Meanwhile, here is Francesca Santi of Chile on one of her best apparatus. She has opted to perform a layout Sukahara, the half turn onto the table and the back layout off. Wonderful story to her gymnastics. She's 31 years old and actually trained in Chile as a child, and then her family moved to Spain for her father's job when she was about 13. She tested at the High Performance Center in Madrid but wasn't able to stay because she couldn't afford it. But when they returned to Chile, she returned to training, and here she is at the Pan American Games. And now 40-year-old Barbara Achondo, a gymnast who was in contention to make the 2000 Olympic team. She took a 12-year break from gymnastics before returning in 2011. And less than a year after making her return, she was the Chilean national champion. She studied dance and she teaches it. She has done her floor choreography, a very dramatic, expressive piece. 11.366, what she contributes to the team on vault. And now Macarena Pinto, another vault specialist. Handspring front 1.5 in the tuck position. Oh, what a vault that is. Macarena Pinto, 35 years old from Providencia, and the reigning South American Games champion on vault. She competed at the World Championships as well this year. It was her first Worlds in 10 years. She started gymnastics at the age of 6 here in Santiago at the Club Palestino. She says, I learn from every failure and every achievement. And if the result is not what I expected, I try again, no matter what. She showed 2 vaults, 12.783 her average. She has qualified for the vault final. And here is a look at the final standings. The United States of America on top once more at the Pan American Games. Brazil taking the silver medal, a historic silver. To this point, they have had only bronze. And with bronze is Team Canada. Canada, such a decorated nation at the Pan American Games. They add one more today. It's a job very well done for the Canadians, who will be stepping up to collect their team bronze medals during the victory ceremony that is still to come. History upon history for Brazil. Silver at the World Championships, and now silver at the Pan American Games. Brazil's bronze medal streak began in 1983. Its latest was in 2019, but on this night, they have silver. And Canada knows it now. They will be on the podium too. Yes, they can. This is getting to be a familiar sight, celebrating Brazilians with their flag on the podium, having done historic things. What a year. What a year for this most deserving group of gymnasts, seeing their hard work pay off on the international stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
And for the host nation, Chile, absolutely nothing but love. They finish 8th in the standings. Top 8 among the 41 nations of Pan America. Preparations well underway for the victory ceremony. Coming up, let's have a look at the highlights of this third and final subdivision. The final standings, Canada taking the bronze, Brazil with the silver, and the United States with the gold.
Los Juegos Panamericanos Santiago 2023 presentan la ceremonia de premiación.
And now entering the arena, the members of the 3 teams that have earned those medals. Some are veterans, some are debutantes, some are in the midst of their careers. All of them will keep this night in their heart.
The medals will be presented by Carolina Toa Morales, Minister
The presentation party?
and Public Security of Chile. Las medallas serán presentadas por Carolina Toa Morales, Ministra de Interior y Seguridad Pública de Chile. Accompanied by Naomi Valenzo, President of the Pan American Gymnastics Union.
Canada takes its cue. Carrying on a long tradition of landing on the Pan American Games podium. This time, it is bronze. Bronze medal received by national champion Aurélie Tran. By Ava Stewart, the Tokyo Olympian. By the consistent Cassandra Lee. By Frédérique Sgarbosa at her first Pan American Games. And by Sydney Turner, a World and now Pan American Games medalist. The bronze medal to Team Canada. In addition to their medals, gymnasts are being presented with a special version of the 2023 Pan American Games mascot, Few, a Rush Tyrant bird, modeled after one of the 7-colored Rush Tyrants, part of the fauna that is native to this nation.
Silver medal, Brazil.
To date, at the Pan American Games, Brazil, their women's gymnastics team has had only bronze. But tonight, they stand up and proudly receive yet another historic silver medal. And there are plenty of Brazilian fans in the house to help them celebrate it. Caroline Pedro, one of the veterans of this team. Flavia Saraiva, a gymnast with multiple Pan American Games medals, all of them bronze. This is her first silver. Judge Barbosa, one of the stars of this event in 2007. It ignited her career. It has helped bring her here tonight. Julia Suarez, in her first Pan American Games appearance. And the 2022 world champion, Rebecca Andrade, one of the undisputed leaders of this team. The silver medal to Team Brazil. What a magnificent performance from all members of this team tonight. Much to admire and much to discuss. The world silver medalists at the Pan American Games as well. One of the great dominant teams at the Pan American Games is the United States. Women's gymnastics was added to the Games beginning in 1959, and at every edition, then and since, bar 2, the USA has won the team gold. They have also had gold at every edition of the Games since 2003. 2 decades of dominance at the Pan American Games level.
Jordan
Childs, she has an Olympic medal. She has World Championships medals. She was missing a gold from the Pan American Games. Tonight she has it. Kelly Lincoln, the newcomer, just 17 years old and so full of promise. Kayla DiCello, A wonderful career continues.
Tiana Sumana Sequeira.
Tiana Sumana Sequeira, another newcomer to the U.S. program.
Zoe Miller.
And what a wonderful one she is. And finally, Zoe Miller, whose uneven bars routine was the exercise that clinched this medal. The gold medal to the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of the United States of America.
Damas y caballeros, el himno nacional de Estados Unidos de América.
The Star-Spangled Banner played in honor of the gymnasts of the United States of America, Pan American Games champions in 2023.
Juegos Panamericanos.
Just time for a photo. The final team standings in women's artistic gymnastics at the 2023 Pan American Games: bronze to Canada, silver to Brazil, and gold to the United States.
Thank you for being part of the Santiago 2023 Pan American Games.
Gracias por ser parte de los Juegos Panamericanos Santiago 2023.
And with that, a most memorable day of gymnastics in Santiago draws to a close. Tonight, there will be celebrations in the Athletes' Village, but perhaps not too many, because the men's and women's all-around finals will be held tomorrow, and we will see many of these same gymnasts again competing for individual honors. Here is a look at the qualification standings to the all-around final. Jordan Childs and Kayla DiCello qualifying in first and second places. Flavia Saraiva of Brazil, the bronze medalist from 2019, she has qualified in the bronze medal position. But all of this could change. And it is another incredible matchup that awaits us tomorrow. The men's and women's all-around finals still to come. there are your 24 gymnasts who will contend, although we will not see all of them because the all-around final is a 2-per-nation affair. We certainly do hope that you have enjoyed the team competition at these 2023 Pan American Games. See you tomorrow for more action from this arena.